On Two Wheels this week, Wayne has some tips for winter riding. We take a Fireblade through the gears without using the clutch, and Jeff reports from this year's Bol D'or 24-hour race.
So winter is here. In fact, it's been here for a couple of months. And for you hardy bikers out there who ride come rain or shine, I'm sure you'd like to know of a few little tricks to keep you just that little bit warmer. Now, I'm not going to go on about the clothing, the general jackets and jeans and things, because everybody knows about them and you can buy them anywhere. But there's a few little things you can do to try and reduce the cold bits, fingers, toes and so on. So the best thing to do is to start at the top and work our way down. So helmets, well, they keep your head warm and dry, don't they? Yeah, fair dinkum. And your visors, you probably already know, you can buy demisting products to keep that clear. But what you can do is bridge the gap between where the helmet finishes here and your jacket finishes. And you do that by these simple things. It's like a turtleneck thing you stick over the top of your head and it keeps this warm and dry. Dry is not necessarily the right thing. It doesn't keep it dry because in this case these are woolen. When they get wet, they get fairly cold. Right then, so what do we have? Well, we go to these, which are the next best thing, which are fleecy. And this one, you can tell from this, not only will it go over your neck, you can make it into a bit of a bob hat. Although you do look fairly stupid with this stuck on your bonds. But this is the thing that you can use. It's neoprene nylon, it's rubberized material that when it gets wet is like a wetsuit. Your body heat warms up the wetness there, and that can help on a really wet, horrible day when you're scooting down the road at high speeds. Keep this little bit warm. Balaclavas, an awful lot of people wear balaclavas. Just a word of warning, if you've got a really good fitting helmet and you put a balaclava on, come the summertime when you wear your helmet without the balaclava, you may find that your helmet is therefore too big for you. You've stretched it. So bear that in mind. If you buy a balaclava, buy a real thin one, maybe a silk one. Okay? Right then, so that's that bit. I'm not going to bother about this bit. We all know about heated jackets and so on. It's these things here. There's a few little things you can buy to keep them warm, and I'll show you. What we've got here is a set of handlebar muffs, and I agree, for those of you who are saying it in their own mind, it looks terrible. It does look terrible. They're not there to look smart. Handlebar muffs are very, very practical, but just not very nice looking. For around £30 you can buy these devices that cover your hands up and keep the chill factor down, because that is the problem. The wind attacks your hands as it attacks you, desperately so, especially when you're speeding down the road, and that is what a handlebar muff does. It keeps the chill factor down. Now if you don't fancy sticking a set of them on, or indeed they might not fit your particular type of bike, then you've got to address the problem of keeping these things warm in another way. One way of doing it is wearing, yet again, an ugly item. These things, I agree, they are positively ugly. You stick two fingers in there, two fingers in there, and your thumb up there. The two fingers together keep each other warm. Okay, it's as simple as that. 30 quid-ish. Inside of there, you can include then these. And these don't look very smart either, but they work because they are indeed heated, and you have a wire that comes from the bike battery connected to the bike with a quick fastener through your sleeve of your jacket to these, and then the elements warm the back of your hands up, and that works as well, in particular if then you've got your muffs on the outside, but that just warms the cold air as it hits the back of your fingers and keeps your fingers warm. Now, a lot of people don't like the idea of having wires going through the suit and everything, so we address the problem by having these, which are heated handlebar grips, and they have a wiring element through the inside of the grip, come from your bike battery with a little switch, which you would wire in after the ignition, so when you turn the ignition off, it would turn them off, just in case you forget, or if any little kids come along and flick the switch. Doesn't drain your battery, it's only on when you're riding. The problem you've got there is the fact that that only warms the inside of your hand, doesn't warm the hand from the chill factor, and we're back to doing that again by covering them up with muffs or mitts, these things, which again look stupid, but they work. They cover the chill factor. And in the case of this particular pair, at around £10, they are indeed waterproof as well. Right then, the hands solved. Let's go down to the feet. Oi, get off them bikes and look at me. Oi, come here. Pay attention, will you, when I'm talking to you. Right now then, we've done them, we've done that bit. Plates of meat, keeping them little babies warm. Not an easy task, I must admit. There is indeed electronic shocks. Don't really fancy the idea myself, they must be very uncomfortable. Because it isn't the case, and it's not necessary that you're just going to be sat on the bike riding. You may indeed want to do a bit of walking when you get off it. So, comfort is essential. So, when you're buying a pair of boots, consider getting a pair with a waterproof liner. You might say, I ain't going out in the rain, just the cold. Well, a waterproof liner is usually windproof, and that helps keep your feet warm. There is a product called Camberell, which is a liner you can get in boots. They use it in fell walking type shoes and boots. That does help. It's not a clear thing, it doesn't necessarily cure the problem, but it does help keep your toes a little warmer. What you could do is cover the boot up with something as beautiful as this. And those of you who like a bit of rubber, you'll like these rubber over boots. They stink. 12 quid buys you a pair of them. You could try putting these on the inside, Perel dry socks. They go on the inside just like a sock, but it's got a waterproof but breathable membrane inside the sock to keep your toes warm and dry. Okie dokie. There is a trick, you know, a very simple trick. This applies to these, putting them inside gloves, and to your toes, put them inside boots. Warm them up beforehand. Thermal insulation doesn't know whether you want to be cold or warm, just the same as a thermos flask. When you put a cold drink in with ice, it keeps it cold, and the ice hard. When you put a hot drink in, it keeps it hot. Nobody tells that thermos flask how you want it. You have got to tell your gloves what you want it to do. You want to keep your fingers warm. So warm them up immediately before you put your gloves on. Or warm your gloves up, or your boots up, immediately before you wear them. And that will extend that time before you get cold. So there, we've covered your hands, your toes, your neck. We've sorted you out, the rider. What about the poor bike? Well, there we have a large cover covering this particular machine up. Covers come in all shapes and sizes, so there will be one to suit your own particular machine. Even if you've got a huge thing like a Gullwing or something like that, there are covers big enough. There are in fact covers that are like flipping sheds as well, which come over the top, that are full creations at several £100s, but you needn't spend that amount of money. Such as this particular one we've got on this bike is around 60 quid. That ain't an awful lot of money to spend to cover your pride and joy up, to keep it protected in the winter against all the worst of the elements. But, I mean, let's be fair, it only takes 5 minutes to throw it over the top. This particular cover, if I might just show you down here, has got a nice soft liner, so it won't scratch the inside of your bike. It's also treated so that the hot exhaust will not melt the bike. But that's a posh one. You may want to only spend about £20, so just consider that you must let the exhaust cool down before you put your cover on. Or there are indoor covers like this, which is around 20 quid's worth, which are a nice soft material as well, but of course they're not designed to keep the rain off. And you might wonder why on earth you want to cover your bike up when it's indoors. Well, it might be in the shed, it might be in the garage. You may stretch across your bike to reach that pot of white paint you're going to use to paint your kitchen with. And you might also drop it, the lid comes off and it goes over your pride and joy. So having a cover on certainly is not an half bad idea for the sake of 15–20 quid. And there we are, we've covered it up, we've kept it warm and dry in the winter. So if you don't really fancy going out on a frosty morning or a snowy day, or in the rain and cold, then you could use alternative form of transport. So you've indeed got Thomas the Tank. Then you've got good old trusty buses, if ever there is one and you don't have to wait a while. And of course you could always wave a taxi down if they ever listen to you. So if you don't really fancy using those alternative forms of transport, you could always rely on trusty old four wheels, the motor car, to take you around and about. Because all you got to do is just throw the hood up, wind your window up, turn the heater on, it's gorgeous, and then simply just drive away. Now then, if you have had enough of turkey over Christmas? You might think I have. Well, I can assure you I haven't. And I might, just might, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Coming up after the break, Jeff is in the south of France at this year's Bol D'or. Well, did you notice something then? I was changing gear on this Fireblade with my left hand in the air, nowhere near the clutch, and clunk-free, very smooth gear changes at that. How did I do it? Well, in case you don't know, I was using a Microshifter. What's that and what does it do? Well, let's go and ask a man who makes them. And here is that man, Barry Coyle from Simtech. So Barry, Microshifters, very tricky, but how do they work?
All they do really is stall the engine and allows you to change gear without using the clutch.
Right. Is that it?
Not really, no.
There's a bit more electronics involved than that, isn't there?
There certainly is. First of all, you've got a carbon fibre construction Microshifter,
right?
Which really has an ignition stall setting ranging from 2.5 up to 11. All you do, you basically set it to your own speed of gear change. So whether you're riding on the road or riding on the track, you will set it in accordance with that.
Right, okay. So, I mean, what does that do? That connects, there's a bunch of wires sticking out the bottom of that.
There is.
Where do they all go?
Well, you can attach this to anywhere on the motorcycle.
Right.
And basically you connect it to the wires through to the ignition coil, a power supply, obviously, to run the whole system, and one to an on-off toggle switch.
Right.
So the shifter can be kept in on position all the time. So if you want to use the clutch, you can bring the clutch in at any point as well. If you want to use the quick shifter, you can use a quick shifter.
Right.
So you've got the best of both worlds.
It just goes up the gearbox, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It changes
change
from...
down?
No, it doesn't. It changes from first gear onwards.
Right, so you revert to normal clutch use then when you're going back down the box, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Right, okay. You were talking then about you just fit this and you just connect this and you just do that. Is it easy to just do that? I mean, this is a DIY kit, isn't it? This is obviously designed for the man in the street to buy and then do himself.
It is. I mean, we've designed it to be fitted as easily as possible to the motorcycle. Anybody that's got half an idea of, you know, being able to install anything electronic to a motorcycle will be able to fit this very easily.
Right, okay. And the only bit you see of it is the only clue that your mates would have is this, isn't it? That's the only bit that's visible on the bike.
Yeah, it is, bar the fact that you've also got a magnetic cylinder sensor, which is fitted to the rod.
Right.
At the bottom there on the motorcycle. And in order that you can fit this, you also have a piggyback bracket. You can actually install this to the motorcycle and have it set up literally in minutes.
Right.
Yeah, it's that easy.
Okay, so right, just to summarise again, you change gear, when you go up the box, you flick that, there's a magnet that it moves across the face of a magnet or something there, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It breaks the ignition.
Yes.
And allows the gears to go in without you having to dip the clutch.
Yes, it does.
Hey, so I've learned something.
It's pretty simple.
All right, how that looks pretty substantial, carbon fibre and all that. Is it fairly sturdy, that? I mean, that's going to get wet because on this one you've got it on the frame.
Yeah, we've really constructed it so it could take all weathers. It is a sealed unit, so it can be submerged in water if you decide that you want to ride through a pond.
Oh, that's handy, isn't it? So that's totally waterproof, that?
It is.
Well, it's fancy, Barry. It's high tech. It's carbon fibre. It looks trick. But I have to ask you, what's the point? Why should we have one of these?
Well, firstly, it extends the life expectancy of your tyres, your chain, your gearbox, plus also your clutch by up to 40%, simply because it's creating a smoother gear change, so you're putting less strain on the bike. And also it enhances the speed of acceleration because you're cutting down on the time to change the gears.
Right, so you go through the box quicker.
Yes.
Now, you said speed of acceleration there. That would generally relate to sports bikes. Is this directed primarily at sports bikes, or is it a cross-section of people that are buying them?
No, you get a cross-section of people buying them, anybody from owning a retro bike to a race motorcycle.
Right. I suppose the fact that you can fine-tune this device to the way you ride and the way you change gear.
Yes, you can.
Allows it to be used on any type of bike.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. This is carbon fibre. There's all bits of wires out of it. Carbon fibre and bits of wires and high-tech looking stuff usually means lots of money. So what's it cost?
For this particular kit, you're looking just over £300, although we do have cheaper packages available with different types of switches.
Right.
So we can meet your budget if you like.
Fair enough. Well, you can pay £300 for a can, can't you, to stick on your exhaust? So,
you can.
And this is a bit more tricky. This would impress your mates more than a can, I think, don't you?
It certainly would, and over a longer period of time, it would save you money as well.
Right, fair enough. Something that we just mentioned just a short time ago was you said that's totally waterproof, and I could ride this bike into a canal, and that would still work. Yeah?
Yes.
You sure?
That's correct.
Right. Well, let's go and find out.
Well, welcome to an incredibly blustery Bol D'or. You might have heard of the Mistral wind. Well, the Mistral Strait is just over there. The Mistral wind is nearly blowing me over. And how on earth those guys are getting on, racing out there, God only knows. But during today, tonight and tomorrow, we hope to find out. Goodbye!
Well, perhaps not quite goodbye, because endurance racing is big news in France. Even the motorways are free for the Bol, and thousands poured in to circuit Paul Ricard to prove the point. But it's not just the French. There are some Brits who are equally big fans.
I've been going to the Bol D'Or since 1976. I started going there because I was invited by the B&W team, which at the time was running with the Gus Kuhn organisation, which was also Norton, and they also had MV Augusta agency back in the 70s. Makes me feel very old. And then it went on from the Bol D'Or at Le Mans, and it progressed and got bigger and bigger, and I was carried along with it. It then changed its location to the Paul Ricard circuit, where they do a lot of Formula One testing in the winter time because of the sunshine. I like the drive down to the south because it's nice and warm. You got all the bikes emerging when you get closer, and there's a camaraderie ship. The whole atmosphere is magic. There's parties going on all night. There's campfires. There's barbecues. There's wheelies, stoppies, lots more wheelies, lots more stoppies, lots more burnouts.
But this is just a sideshow to the main event. Crowds struggle to find a vantage point as 3 o'clock approaches. Clinging on for dear life, they watch the teams line up for the classic sprint across the track to start yet another race for the Bol D'Or, the Golden Bowl. Once away on their 1,500-mile race, yes, that's right, 1,500 miles, fans will loyally watch their favourites, while others take the opportunity to have a wander around the hundreds of stalls, crane their necks skywards, or generally chill out. Others, meanwhile, are struggling in the gale to put up their tents, while our valiant racers plough on into the night. One such valiant lot are the privateer British Phase 1 team. Their Bol regulars and their team of Aussie Warwick Noland, Kiwi Tony Rees and Brit Brett Sampson were doing well, running in 10th spot as night fell. I managed to grab a quick word with Brett in between stints.
Brett Sampson, you've already been out there on the circuit. How have you found it today?
It's been a bit of a problem. It's very windy. A few areas is very buffet you from side to side. It's just hard. Like you're leading the bike into the wind, and then the wind will stop, so it falls over even more. So it's just terrible.
What about the competition? How have you found that? Because you've been well placed, haven't you?
We have been well placed. The bike, I feel, is a bit down on speed. If we had an extra 20 k's on top of the bike's speed, then it would be a lot easier for us.
Yeah, and so what sort of speed are you reaching down the back straight there, the Mistral Straight?
It's about, we're doing 182.
Plenty fast enough in this wind?
It is plenty fast enough in this wind, especially at the end of it when you've got to turn a corner.
But all was not well. Tension mounted as word came in that their faithful GSX-R 750 was ailing. A push back to the pits saw frantic activity as the crew fitted a new fuel pump and fixed a leaking tank, and away they went, posting fastest time of the night in the process. So what is it about endurance racing? One man who knows is Phase 1's Christian Vaughan.
Christian, that pit stop that you've just had, I was expecting to have some more time to do some filming, but it was very, very quick.
Yeah, we tend to pride ourselves on the speed of changes, and we like to be doing a full front and rear change in something like 17, 18 seconds and a rear only in 10. But when you take into account that the fuel's only taking 6 or 7, then we have to get on with it, because we have to try and make up time in the pits, which we don't have on the track against the factory bikes.
And how busy are you in here? I mean, the tension seems pretty high. I mean, is this all the way through, or is it just approaching pitting time?
You tend to get pretty nervous as the time approaches. We have a board up on the wall which has all the various tasks, and we tend to operate in little teams. There'll be a front team and a rear team, and you sort of get your team together and think about what you're going to do. It's just like going into some sort of a fight, really.
But from the smile on your face, it looks as though you enjoy all this.
Oh yeah, I get a hell of a lot out of it. Everybody does, otherwise we wouldn't do it. But it's tremendously satisfying, because we've built the bike, we've run it through practice, we know it, all its parts intimately, and this is the final bit. And if we can get through the 24 hours, even better, get a good position, then it's a hell of a good feeling.
And he's not alone in his enthusiasm.
Tony Carter from Motorcycle News. Obviously, Motorcycle News rates this as an important race. What is it about endurance racing, Tony?
Well, endurance racing, there's nothing quite like it in the world. This really is a war of attrition, not only for the machines, but also for the riders involved. It's not just a question of who's the best on the day, but who's the best for the longest period of time. No engines, no machines, no riders go through such stresses as they do in this racing. Really does make it a very unique discipline for both bike and rider.
And is it a tiring event for you to cover?
Not as tiring as for the riders, I'm sure. That's all part of the job, isn't it, Jeff? And we've just got to knuckle down and enjoy it.
Meanwhile, back in the outfield, the fans were still shopping, while others were really bopping, and very nice too. The team of Terry Reimer, Peter Goddard and Brian Morrison eventually won on their Works GSXR 750 Suzuki, and our Phase 1 team did brilliantly to finish 7th. Yet another Bol to remember? What do you say, Peter?
The whole thing is magic, really. There is no other motorcycle meeting like the 24-hour Bol D'or. It is totally, totally unique.
On Two Wheels next week, Jeff travels even further afield to the land of the rising sun to celebrate Honda's 50th birthday.